Hi guys, I'm Jodi, a Charlie Book Fanatic. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to talk to you about my most anticipated releases for 2019. I know it's now February and it's kind of late already to talk about my most anticipated releases because some of them have already come out or are coming out rather quickly, but I didn't have any time on my schedule earlier to fit this video in, so I think it is still a fine time to talk about my most anticipated releases and maybe make them some of your most anticipated releases because they sound exciting to you too. Also, please don't feel any hesitation to share your most anticipated releases with me down in the comments below, because I am always looking for good new recommendations or books to look out for in general. The first book I want to talk about is Kasie West's newest release. It's called Fame, Fate and the First Kiss, and it already came out at the beginning of February. If you don't know who Kasie West is a very popular YA contemporary author, and she mostly writes romances. And it follows a main character who has always dreamt of being an actress, and then finally her dream comes true. While she is in her senior year of high school, she had never anticipated having to balance school with her big break. And then there's obviously the romance element, and our main character gets tutored by a guy who her father hired, and she can't stand this guy, but he's obviously the love interest. So it's basically about a high school student who is dealing with her newfound acting career while also falling in love with the unlikeliest of guys. Kasie West is one of my favorite contemporary authors. I have read so many of her books and they are always enjoyable to me. They're never really quite 5-star reads though, but I don't really mind that they read very fast. And they are always entertaining to me, so I don't really mind that they're not 5-star reads. I just want to read Kasie West stories because I always think she has great ideas for stories and her execution never fails for me. This whole video is in no particular order, by the way. They're not going to be in chronological order. I am going to mention the release dates for these books, but aside from that, they're just all over the place. The next book I am super excited for is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Last year I got in this Taylor Jenkins Reid frenzy and I read almost all of her books and I loved all of them. Starting with Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I absolutely love and everyone was hyped about last year. Now she comes around with another historical fiction read about a fictional band called Daisy Jones and the Six. Daisy Jones and the Six came up in the 1970s as a rock band, but eventually they broke up and it was all over the news, and this story details why they broke up. It sounds super exciting. When I read the synopsis, I wasn't sure whether Daisy Jones and the Six were an actual rock band or not. So same thing with Evelyn Hugo, and I looked them up and they're not. They're actually fictional, and I am so impressed that Taylor Jenkins Reid already manages to do that with the synopsis. I think it sounds so interesting, and if this is anything like Evelyn Hugo, then, which I think it's going to be because that was her latest release and this sounds very much in the same vein, then I am so excited for it, and I think a lot of other people are going to be excited for it as well. Daisy Jones and the Six comes out on April 5th. Oh man, another book I'm excited for, like so excited, is the new collaboration between Amie Kaufman and Kristoff called Aurora Rising. It's the first book in a cycle, and it comes out on the 30th of May, and it's obviously a science fiction story. Amie Kaufman and Kristoff already worked together on the Illuminate trilogy, which I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite series of all time, Illuminate being one of my favorite books of all time, and I cannot wait to see what they come up with for a new collaboration. Having said that, this is not going to be the same thing, it's not going to be multimedia, it's just going to be written words, but I am still very excited for that because I feel like Illuminate was a very successful project for a lot of people. It's one of the most popular science fiction series out there right now, so I think this one is going to be a hit as well. This book details the story of a couple of graduates from this academy called Aurora Academy, and they are being assigned their first missions. And I'm going to go off of the synopsis for a description of all of the characters. The synopsis says, a cocky diplomat with a black belt in sarcasm, a sociopath scientist with a fondness for shooting her bunkmates, a smart-ass tech whiz with the galaxy's biggest chip on her shoulder, an alien warrior with anger management issues, and a tomboy pilot who's totally not into him, in case you were wondering. I think it sounds amazing. This is such a ragtag group of people and I am so excited for it. It's really going to be full of funny quips and remarks, and I'm so there for all of that. Then the second book in the duology, it's Starsight, and it's a sequel to Skyward, which I read at the end of last year in December. I loved Skyward. It's by Sanderson, and I haven't really loved Sanderson in the past, but Skyward totally changed my mind on him. I loved it so much, and I cannot wait to read Starsight, which comes out on the 31st of October, so it's really at the end of this year. Which I'm kind of sad about because I wanted to continue on with the series immediately, but I guess that's what you get for reading new releases. This is also science fiction, by the way. Can't really tell you what Starsight is about since it is the sequel to Skyward, but I can tell you what Skyward is about. Skyward follows a main character called Spencer, and she gets into this pilot academy. She wants to be just like her dad, who was also a pilot, but also not exactly like him, because he turned out to be a coward and fled from his group in the middle of a very important space battle. And that's why actually no one wants Spencer in the sky, because they're scared she is going to do the same thing as her father. And this story tells us all about Spencer's journey into Flight Academy, getting to know her crew, and her eventually going up into the sky. Later this year there's also the 4th book in a quartet coming out, so it's the final book in the series. It's called Five Dark Fate, and it's by Kendare Blake. I read the entire series up until now, and I'm so excited for this conclusion to this story. It comes out on the 3rd of October, so also the end of this year, which has also happened with the other books in the series, and I cannot wait. I am so excited. I have read a book by Kendare Blake before. It was called Anna Dressed in Blood. I wasn't a huge fan of that one, but I absolutely love Three Dark Crowns, and I cannot wait to see how this whole world building thing will end up, because the 3rd book told us some very interesting information, and I don't see where this is all going, but I definitely want the 3 sisters to all be happy together and end up in a friendship and just live together, but I feel like that is not going to be how the story will go, and I'm kind of sad and kind of hesitant about that. If you don't know what Three Dark Crowns is about, it's about 3 sisters who are triplets. They have to duel each other to the death for one of them to become queen of this island. This has gone on for generations. Every generation there are triplets born, and they have to fight each other to the death. They're always girls as well. I believe it's a matriarchy at all times. I think it's such an interesting concept, and the story just goes to all places you don't expect. And these sisters don't like each other. They have grown up together, but they barely remember each other because they got separated at some point and they live in different parts of this island. So they have to duel each other to the death while barely knowing each other. And then one of them kind of remembers one of her other sisters, and she doesn't really want to fight her to the death. And I think it is so interesting. If you haven't picked the series up yet, the last book is coming out in October, so you should really get on this hype train. Oh man, I just saw the 3rd book in the My Lady Janie series is going to come out this year, and I am stoked. It's called My Calamity Jane. It's coming out on the 31st of December 2019, so it barely counts for this year. I'll probably read it in 2020, not 2019, because I won't get my hands on ARC. But yeah, it is technically still published in 2019. This series is by Cynthia, Brodi, Ashton, and Jodi Meadows. And the books are basically companions. They're not really sequels to each other, but they are in the same series. They all follow a different character named Jane. The first one followed Jane Grey, who was Queen of England for 9 days. Then the second book followed Jane Eyre, kind of a Ghostbusters twist to it, and then the 3rd book follows Calamity Jane. And all the synopsis says is that Calamity Jane gets a better ending to her story. I don't know anything about Calamity Jane, so I couldn't tell you who that is, but I am excited to find out. I didn't really like the second book in this series. It was just okay. I liked the first one way more because there was so much humor in that. But with the second book, I felt like I was reading Jane Eyre all over again. There wasn't enough of a twist to it. I haven't read anything about Calamity Jane, so I feel like it will be more like Jane Grey, who I also knew nothing about when I started the book, and that makes me excited for it. Also on the 31st of December comes out Kingdom of Beck by Marie Lu. I believe it's a standalone fantasy novel, and I love Marie Lu. Marie Lu is one of my favorite authors of all time. I love almost all of her work, and I am excited for a new book by her. It's a little weird. When I click on it, it says it comes out in 2020, but when I look at my Goodreads page, it says it comes out on the 31st of December 2019, so I'm just going to include it in this video. But I'm going to be very disappointed if it doesn't come out this year, but I guess it doesn't really matter, since I'll be reading it in 2020 anyway. And this book is based on the childhood of composer Mozart and his sister Nannerl. I don't know if Marie Lu is a huge fan of Mozart, but I think this is so interesting. It's historical fiction, obviously, / fantasy. Excited to see what Marie Lu will do with this. But it is fantasy because there's a magical imp involved who makes a pact with Nannerl, because Nannerl harbors the secret wish to always be remembered, but this magical imp wants something terrible in return. Then on 2nd of May comes out The Princess and the Fangirl, which is the second book in the Geekerella series. It follows side characters from the first book, not really anyone we know, but it's a retelling of The Prince and the Pauper, and 2 people exchange roles. It's about a movie star who exchange roles with a normal person who is a fan of the show this person's going to be starring in, and they have an unlikely resemblance. It is about 2 girls though. Just to make sure that you know, like, That's why it's called The Princess and the Fangirl. I don't think you really need to have read Geekerella for this because it is very much a companion. On the 26th of March comes out The Priory of the Orange Tree, which is a huge fantasy standalone. It is almost 1,000 pages, I believe, and it is by Samantha Shan, who has also written The Bone Season, and I absolutely love the Bone Season series, which isn't finished yet, by the way. But The Priory of the Orange Tree is her newest baby, and I am excited to get to it. It involves dragons and a female-female romance, I believe, and it just sounds great. Those are all my most anticipated releases for 2019. Let me know down below if you found any new books you are excited about now. What are some of your most anticipated releases? I would love to know. Thanks for watching. Goodbye!